All right, crew, we are back in the parking lot, and here's the deal. In gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, what happens is when we start our athletes, we start them with very simple body positions. If you go through the library on the website, you'll realize that one of the most viewed and most apparent movements that you see is this hollow body position, this hollow rock. This hollow body position is basically a globally flexed body position that looks kind of like a banana that's sitting on your back on the ground. And it's our first way of actually challenging our athletes midline stability. And the reason we start with the hollow body position is because we challenge the midline from a pushing perspective, meaning that I have to push away from gravity to create some kind of positional strength, and that way I can get my athlete into certain positions and get them to do certain things that I want them to see down the line when we get into more difficult movements. So the hollow body position is key. But what happens when we start moving and we have to maintain the integrity of the structure in the middle? Well, a lot of things happen when we start squatting really heavy, or we start squatting for a lot of speed, or all of a sudden we have thrusters, Fran, all kinds of crazy things that happen in CrossFit. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about a very simple movement pattern, which is just a hip flexion and extension, where we're going to add a little knee variation into it. We're going to add a little bit of a abduction thing going on, which is just going to be a straddle. We're going to have our hands moving in certain ways, and then what I want to show you guys is ways of applying it to other things. One of the other things is that we don't see a lot in the training room, but it's jumping and landing, where in the jump we actually execute some sort of maneuver. So we're going to start from a hollow body position. We're going to build up through tuck, straddles, pikes, some circles, and then we're going to talk about some press outs. That is a term that you'll see in trampolining, but it will relate back in to all the sexy stuff that you try to do on a daily basis. So come on over here. This is the first thing we're going to do. Just finding our hollow body position. I think it's been a year now since we filmed the hollow body position, so we're just going to review it really quick in case you don't know where it is. Legs are straight, back is touching the ground, shoulders off the ground. I reach for my toes. I start descending with my legs until I feel like, oh, I'm about to lose my back position. I bring my arms overhead. That will be my hollow body position. I want to be able to hold the integrity of this structure without losing positioning. If you're doing it right, you will feel like you're definitely challenged. Something you should notice is that I could actually have a conversation while I'm doing it, meaning that I'm not at peak tension. I'm stiff enough to be able to hold the integrity of that structure. That's key. So once you have that position, what we're gonna work on is on a tuck up, or just a tuck position. So what that is being able to bring my upper body and my lower body together into this big compressed position, and then be able to extend it again where the arms finish overhead. So my tuck goes here, and I close back up. It's an explosive thing. Tuck and open. If you look in the middle, nothing moves. Everything stays completely still. Tuck, open. So what this is, it's our first excuse from a gymnastics perspective to talk about upper body and lower body moving at the same time and being able to balance right in the middle. That point of contact with the ground where my lower back never moved, it's key to maintain so we can take this stuff to other things. And we'll talk about more of that. Now, next step is we're gonna make it a little bit different here. Now we're gonna go for a straddle, and the straddle is basically a spread leg position, not the gyno position. Spread legs, straight legs, pointed toes. So it looks here. Arms are up, legs are straight. I'm gonna straddle, touch my toes. It's the morning, so I feel a little stiff, but same concept happening here. Everything in the middle stays completely still. The interesting thing about the straddle is that when I straddle, it's the same thing as saying knees out in my squat. So hip flexion and extension in the straddle position is also my first excuse to start developing squatting while lying down. And that's a weird thing to say. I'm not saying that you should squat in a hollow body position, but we can definitely develop hip flexion and extension properly. I have actually received a couple of emails of people that have lost their legs in combat and or to cancer, and wondering how can they start squatting it again? How can they start challenging midline and getting stronger in their hip flexion extension? This is one way to start, and this is more the motor control side of things, and you'll only get so much challenge from it, but it's actually the first step before you move on to other things. So That's your straddle. And here goes the next one, which is back into the midline, but now instead of bending the legs are gonna stay straight. It's gonna be a little V-up. That's your V-up. Key thing is that you finish in this little jackknife position where you're still only moving upper body and lower body at the same time, and the middle stays strong. Here's the deal, last thing. Most of you guys will end up doing something like this, where the upper body moves too fast, or the lower body moves really well, but the upper body doesn't go anywhere, and everything looks very funky. So try to balance things out. Film yourself, have someone watch you. Can you move everything simultaneously? Come in and out explosively and not move the middle. Test that.